Hi, I'm Marcia Franklin, and welcome back to this Dialogue Web Extra. I'm talking with David Nevin. Mr. Nevin is a Boise attorney who is one of the counsels to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who is incarcerated at Guantanamo Bay, accused of committing many terrorist acts, including masterminding the 9/11 attacks. Mr. Nevin, I just want to ask you a little bit about how you came to be an attorney and be interested in these types of cases for those that are watching who might want to go into the legal profession. And did you always want to be a criminal defense attorney and represent people that some might say are unrepresentable? Has that been a driving force for you?
No, I wouldn't say it's something I always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do interesting work, and the criminal practice is frequently terrifying, even horrifying, but it's never boring. And once I became involved in working on criminal cases, there was really no question of turning back. So,
do you have a personal, many of your cases involve what some might say is government overreaching. Do you have a personal mission to make sure that government stays within its bounds? Is that one of the themes running through the cases you take?
I don't think there's anyone who defends criminal cases who doesn't have that as a motivating idea. It's what we are charged with as criminal lawyers, criminal defense lawyers, with doing, is keeping the government in check. That's what the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution requires of us. And so the answer to your question is yes. Because that's the job description.
When you interact with somebody like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, is he just like any other defense client? When you work with him, when you look at him, I mean, are you able to divorce any kind of emotion from your responsibility?
Yes. I think so. I deal with people as people. I deal with them from minute to minute. I expect them to treat me a certain way. I treat them a certain way. And I think everyone is entitled to that respect, no matter what they're accused of having done.
Are you able to talk about how he is in person, his manner?
I can tell you what he's like in open court. He's bright. He's intelligent.
Speaks English.
Speaks English conversationally, not perfectly by any means, but well spoken and has good ideas from a legal strategic standpoint. I guess I would say has clear ideas, has insight into how to be persuasive, that kind of thing.
Some have said that the litany of acts to which he has confessed indicates that he is bragging, that it couldn't possibly be the case that he was involved in so many activities.
Yes, some people have said that.
Something that you cannot comment on.
It's not really.
Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be at Guantanamo? I mean, we saw some pictures earlier in the main body of the program. It's a beautiful place on the one hand, and then it has this other side to it, which must be kind of odd.
It is very odd. It's a very strange place, and there are many anomalies there. Looks a lot like Southwest Idaho, only the ocean is always in view. It's a beautiful place, and particularly
we're not seeing beautiful pictures here, but
particularly if when you aren't looking at the prison environment. It could be a resort area. So being there is not the problem. It's what they are doing there that is so unsettling and odd.
What's it like getting there? You have to fly a small plane, right?
It's a huge amount of work to get there. Involves at least 2 days of travel on my part, and I've spent a lot of time on airplanes over the last year, and it kind of wears you down. But it's not easy to get there. What we do typically is travel from here to the Washington, D.C. area, and then from there to Guantanamo on military aircraft or on chartered aircraft.
And how much time are you allowed to spend with your client when you're there?
We typically spend a day, and we will schedule a day, and we may or may not use all of it. And then as each day goes along, so the following day we might spend more or less time, but we would typically be there for a week or so and would have 3 or 4 days of meetings scheduled during the course of that week. And we might use some or all of that time.
Now, Mr. Mohammed has famously at times fired his attorneys or said he wanted to represent himself, or said he doesn't like American attorneys because they are Jewish or because they believe in same-sex marriage or any number of things. He's talking to you, I assume. He's receptive to having you as his attorney?
Right, and he did make a decision to represent himself, but he also made a decision to keep counsel around to advise him and to assist him. And that's what we've been doing. And that involves, I mean, frequently in our court proceedings, he will turn to me and say, I would like for David to address this question. And so in the end, I have a tendency to do more or less what I do in any case. It's just that it the responsibilities, flow in a slightly different direction.
Have you talked to other attorneys in similar situations to you, like I think it was Mr. K who defended Milosevic, who also wanted to represent himself, who also was, it was a very high-profile international war crimes type case. Mm-hmm. Do you consult with other attorneys to find out how they handled similar situations? You
bet. And there's a relatively small universe of these kinds of cases, and so we and I haven't spoken to Mr. K, but I do we do spend a lot of time networking with other lawyers and talking about the unique difficulties of these kinds of cases.
I think what some people may not realize is the role of the military attorneys all the way through this process, even before civilian attorneys were allowed on site. There's been a lot of yeoman's work done by people in the JAG and Judge Advocate General's office.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Some of whom have vehemently disagreed with the system in which they've been asked to work.
Yeah, this is true both on the prosecution and on the defense side. In fact, I believe some 6 military prosecutors have resigned in protest. Most recently, a man last November who resigned from a case claiming that he was being required to violate his ethical responsibilities as a prosecutor. But yes, there has been. These are military commissions. These are military prosecutions, and these are not civilian criminal cases. They're military cases, and so the judge is a military officer. The convening authority who brings the whole thing into existence is herself a military judge, a retired military judge. It is characterized in all respects by military activity. In fact, Mr. Mohammed at one point in court said, you are the same military which is trying to kill my people in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq. How is it that you can judge me fairly in this kind of case? And that was a question that the judge declined to answer, but it makes the point.
As we move forward with whatever is going to happen to Guantanamo, we're starting to hear about other black sites, Bagram, for instance. Maybe as many as 600 detainees there. This is not an issue that's going to go away, no matter what happens with Guantanamo.
No, it's not. And I mean, it is a tradition in the law of war that if you capture someone on the battlefield, you don't have to turn them loose, even though they are protected by an idea called combatant immunity. As long as they are acting within their role as soldiers, they can't be prosecuted for crimes. But they don't have to be released. They don't have to be allowed to go back out and return to the front lines and start killing our troops again. So there is precedent for holding people in custody, and we will do that. We'll continue to do that. The difference is that the war on terror is thought to be one that will last for a very, very long time. And the kinds of rules that have evolved around holding prisoners have evolved out of more limited in time kinds of conflicts, like World War II, World War I,
right, so this could just keep going on and on.
So you have a little bit different set of problems that presents themselves when you have an indefinite war.
Can you see the possibility of your client and others just being held indefinitely until they die?
Well, Senator Feinstein has introduced a bill in the Senate which has that as an option. She says that everybody at Guantanamo is to be either prosecuted in federal court, sent home, repatriated to another country for prosecution, or held in accordance with the laws of war. So I think clearly people who are in charge of things are at least contemplating that.
And finally, what has been the role of the press in researching, exposing some of these issues so that attorneys like yourself can get more information?
Yeah, there have been many reporters who have been very doggedly pushing these issues and inquiring into them, and there's been some really first-class reporting that's been done in these areas. And there's also, I should also mention just briefly, the role of NGOs, of human rights organizations, has been quite remarkable, and not just the ACLU, with which I'm affiliated, but also Human Rights First, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. Many of these organizations have done so much work. The Center for Constitutional Rights, and I could list many, but have done so much work to uncover what's actually been going on.
And probably couldn't have done their work if there hadn't been people within the administration who were upset, who were leaking information out.
Absolutely a part of the development of things as well.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time
Thanks for having me, Marsha.
Give us some
Appreciate
insight into your work at Guantanamo Bay. You've been listening to Boise attorney David Nevin on this Dialogue Web Extra. Mr. Nevin is counsel to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who is in Guantanamo Bay accused of, among other things, being the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll check our website out as well as Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see you same time next week.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho. To order a copy of this program from Idaho Public Television, call our toll-free number or visit us on the World Wide Web